In this video, we will talk about organic chemistry. The first topic we will talk about in organic chemistry is alkanes. Before we talk about alkanes, it is important to distinguish between organic and inorganic molecules. In chemistry, any organic molecule typically consists of carbon, along with hydrogen, oxygen, and nitrogen groups. And these organic compounds are usually found in living things. So things such as glucose would be a type of organic molecule. Amino acids and proteins are also organic molecules, as well as fats. On the other hand, inorganic molecules do not contain any carbon. However, it is important to know that some molecules with carbons are considered inorganic as well. And these are oxides of carbons. So things such as carbon dioxide or carbonate compounds, even though they do have carbon atoms, they are considered inorganic molecules. Now, from earlier grades, you've learned about the carbon and the oxygen cycle, and it is this cycle that links the carbons and oxygen. All organic things can be somehow found in the carbon cycle. Most naturally found organic substances come from fossil fuels, and fossil fuels come from decaying plants and animals. They got their energy from the sun long time ago, and they partially decompose to give us fossil fuels. Fossil fuels, the creation of fossil fuels, is a natural process, living things dying and decomposing. However, humans can take fossil fuels and combust it, burn it to give us energy, and that is the beginning of a technological process. We mainly burn fossil fuels for heat and energy. Some of this useful energy can be considered as light or movement into forms of cars and airplanes. We also use fossil fuels as a petrochemical, which is the starting reagent for things like plastic or things like methanol or pesticides. Alkanes. Alkanes is a simplest type of organic molecule. They have the general formula of CnH2n plus 2, where N can be 1, 2, 3, and so on. They have carbon-carbon single bonds, along with carbon-hydrogen single bonds as well. All alkanes are considered saturated hydrocarbons, which means they have the maximum number of hydrogens attached to each carbon. As well, alkanes are generally nonpolar. The simplest example of an alkane is a methane. You'll realize that the molecule is an alkane by the ending, ane. In methane, the prefix meth, meth, denotes that our N is equal to 1. So the formula for methane is C1H2 2 times 1 plus 2, or CH4. So in alkanes, it is important to memorize the prefixes, the letters before the letters A and E. We already covered methane, and we were told that methane means there's 1 carbon. Ethane has 2 carbons. Propane has 3. Bute is a prefix for 4. Pent is for 5. Hex, 6. Hept, 7. Oct is 8. The prefix non is code for 9 carbons, and dec is for 10 carbons. In this course, you will need to memorize all of these prefixes. Scientists have many ways to denote alkane structures. The most complex but most straightforward form is what is called the structural formula. Here, all bonds are shown as a line. For example, here we have ethane. As we remember, ethane denotes that there are 2 carbons, and the ane tells you it's going to be an alkane, which means that each carbon, if they're not linked to another carbon, will be linked to a hydrogen. So here we have our 2 carbons, 1 and 2. Now, each carbon needs to make 4 bonds in order to be stable in its octet formation. So the carbon on the left here will make 3 additional bonds with hydrogens, 1, 2, and 3. And the carbon on the right here needs to make 3 additional bonds with hydrogen, 5, 6, and 7, 4, 5, and 6. So the final formula for ethane is C2H6. That was the structural formula where all bonds are drawn. In a slightly simpler format called the condensed structural formula, all the CH bonds are collapsed and written as CH3. There's 1 carbon on the left and 3 carbons on the left. On the right hand side, we have 1 carbon and 3 carbons. And for the final way we can represent an ethane is what is called a line structure. Here, each end of a line segment represents a carbon. Each end of line segment equals 1 atom. So for this new compound that I'm drawing here, I just drew in 3 line segments. However, there are 4 ends to this line segment. There's end number 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is the line structural diagram for a 4-carbon alkane or butane. Let's look at a slightly more complicated example, propane. The prefix prop indicates there are 3 carbons, and ane tells you this is a saturated hydrocarbon, which means that the carbon will be filled with the maximum number of hydrogens. If n equals 3, then 2n plus 2 is equal to 8, so the formula for propane is C3H8. In our structural formula, we see we have 3 carbons here, and we have 8 hydrogens surrounding it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. In a condensed structural formula, we draw in our main carbons, 1, 2, 3, and now we count how many hydrogens are attached to each carbon. On the carbon to the left, there are 3 hydrogens, so it's CH3. On the carbon in the middle, we have 2 hydrogens, so it's CH2. And lastly, the carbon on the right has 3 hydrogens attached to it, so therefore it is CH3. In the line diagram, we see that we have 2 line segments, but remember each end of the line segment is a carbon. So we have 1 carbon here, another carbon here, and our 3rd carbon is right there. And we'll quickly do another example, butane. But is the prefix for 4, so our formula is C4H10. In our structural diagram, we need 4 carbons, and we need 10 hydrogens to properly fill the octet of all 4 carbons. Our condensed structural formula is CH3, CH2, CH2, CH3. In our line structural diagram, we have 3 line segments, but there are 4 ends to the line segment, 1, 2, 3, 4, so there's 4 carbons in our line structural diagram. Let's talk about isomers. In previous courses, you learned that an isotope was an element with a different number of neutrons. Here, however, an isomer is a similar compound, or a compound with the same molecular formula, but has a different structure. So for example, C4H10. The simplest way we can draw C4H10 is a straight chain alkane, so that would be butane, 1, 2, 3, 4. However, we could imagine if we were to take this last carbon off the main chain and attach it right here. In this case, we would get something called methylpropane. The number of isomers can increase dramatically as the number of carbon increases. For example, C10H22 has 75 isomers, whereas if you double the number of carbons to C20H42, it has some 4 million different possible isomers. Let's learn how to name these branched alkanes. The first thing you need to do is to determine the longest continuous chain of carbon atoms. We're going to call this the parent chain because all the other daughter and son chain will come off the parent chain. Then we identify these daughter chain branches and their location on the parent chain. we have to figure out, should we number them from left to right or right to left, in order that the branches have the lowest possible numbers. Then we start to name these branches. If the branch has one carbon, for example CH3, we use the term methyl group. You'll recognize this is similar to methane, which has one carbon. However, instead of ending in ANE, this now ends in YL. Similarly, ethyl is the name for a 2-carbon branch, and propyl is the name for a 3-carbon branch. After we've named our main parent chain and the location and name of any branches, we put them into the proper format. The parent chain comes last, in front of it comes the branch name, and in front of the branch name you write the number of the location, the number where that branch is attached to the parent chain. And we will list the branches in alphabetical order, ignoring any di or tri prefixes. Therefore, the word ethyl, because it starts with an E, will always come before methyl, because it starts with an M. So let's name a branch alkane as an example. Here we know that this is our parent chain and it has 6 carbons in it. We will number it left to right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, rather than right to left, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, because the red numbers have a lower numbers. Here, this methyl group, 1-carbon branch, is attached to number 2 instead of carbon 5. Therefore, we will use the red letters instead of the green letters, the numbers. So, we have a 6-carbon parent chain. Therefore, 6-carbon is hexane. Now we identify the branches. At carbon number 2, we have methane. So this is a 2-methyl compound. And then at position 3, we have a 2-carbon branch. 2-carbon, as you remember, is ethyl. So then we put the methyl and the ethyl before the hexane, and we have to do it alphabetically. So then the full name of this compound is 3-ethyl, 2-methyl hexane. Let's try to determine the name of these compounds. Let's first identify the parent chain, the longest chain. It is right here. There are 6 carbons, so we know that it's going to be a hexane of some sort. Now let us try to number the carbons. First, let's go left to right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's try numbering backwards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You'll notice that our 1-carbon methyl branch is located right here, and it is a lower number if we number left to right. So we should call this 3-methyl hexane. Let's try example B. Again, let's highlight our longest parent chain. It is right here. There are 5 carbons, so this is going to be a pentane compound of some sort. Again, let's number left to right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And number right to left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Even though this carbon is located at position 3, regardless of how we number it, left to right or right to left, this methyl branch would have a lower number if we were to number the atoms going from left to right. So let's do that. So this is here a 2-methyl group, and here is another methyl group at position 3. If we have more than one of a same branches but located at different positions, we can put them together. So then this is called 2, 3 dimethyl pentane. The numbers 2 and 3 indicate the position where the methyl branch is attached to the main chain, and the word di, the prefix di, indicates there are 2 methyl branches on this pentane parent chain. Let's do a couple more examples. Here we have a line diagram, and we use the same rules for naming as we had before. First, we need to identify the longest parent. And you can see the longest parent is right here, but now you need to make a decision. Do you continue going to the right where there's one additional carbon, or do you continue going up where 2 additional carbons? Of course, you would go continue up because that is the longest chain. So here we have a 6 carbon compound, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we know this is going to be a hexane compound of some sort. And we will number the compound again, going from left to right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And right to left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now this time it does not matter whether we number it left to right or right to left. Both of these branches will be called 3 and 4. So for the name of this compound is going to be 3, 4 dash dimethylhexane. Last one. Here we can find our longest chain right here. It is a 10 carbon compound, so we know it's going to be a decane. Let's number this molecule from right to left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You'll notice that there are branches at position 3 if we number it right to left, but if we were to number it left to right, it would also be position 3. However, we are going to give a higher priority. We're going to give a lower number to this 2 carbon group rather than give a lower number, a higher priority to this 1 carbon group, because the priority is determined by the molecular weight of the branch. Here we have a 2 carbon branch, so it has a higher molecular weight, higher priority than this 1 carbon branch. So we will start numbering the parent chain from the end with a higher priority. So we will number it right to left. Okay, so we have a ethyl group, a propyl group, 3 carbons, and a methyl group. Alphabetically, the ethyl group comes first, so this final compound is named 3-ethyl. And now we'll have to decide between methyl and propyl. M comes before P in the alphabet, so the methyl branch is named next. So this is 8-methyl. And lastly, our propyl group, position 5, 5-propyl decane. Okay, if we were asked to draw the structural diagram of an alkane given its English name, we just go backwards. The first thing we need to do is to draw the parent chain, and then we'll add in the branches later. So for example, we have 3-ethyl 2,4-dimethylpentane. The word pentane indicates there's going to be 5 carbons, so we have a 5 carbon compound right here. So once we have our parent chain drawn in, we can add in our branches. We'll do that on the next slide. As you saw on the last slide, the first prefix that comes up is 3-ethyl. So we need an ethyl branch, which is right here, at position 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The next branch was 2,4-dimethyl. Dimethyl tells us there are going to be 2 methyl branches, one at position 2 and one at position 4. So here's the methyl branch at position 2 and another at position 4. The last thing we need to do now is to fill in the carbons with hydrogens so that each carbon is making 4 bonds. This carbon requires 3 additional hydrogens. This one only requires 1 here as well, 1 here, and the last one here requires 3 additional hydrogens. The last topic we'll talk about in this video are cyclic compounds. Cyclic compounds are any hydrocarbons with a closed ring, or a cycle. The name for these compounds has the words cyclo in front of it, and ane again indicates it is a alkane compound. There are only carbon-carbon bonds within the ring. So if you ever see something such as a type of sugar called a ribose, it has an oxygen in the ring. It is technically not a cycloalkane compound. The general formula for cycloalkane is CnH2n, where N is 3, 4, and 5. N cannot be 1 or 2 because you cannot create a ring with just 1 or 2 carbons. And lastly, you'll notice that cyclo compounds have 2 fewer hydrogens than an open alkane. Those 2 hydrogens are lost when the 2 ends of a straight chain alkane connect to form a cycloalkane. When we name cycloalkanes, we just need to put the words cyclo in front of the alkane name. If there are any branches, we're going to treat the cycloalkane as the parent and the branches as the branches. It doesn't matter where you start numbering because it is a ring, and therefore all the carbons will be similar. However, we need to start numbering at the branch with the highest priority in order to give it the lowest number. For example, we have to name this molecule. We know that it is going to be a cyclic compound because there is a cycle or circle with only carbon atoms. We see that there is 2 branches, an ethyl group and a methyl group. We're going to start numbering at the ethyl compound because it has a higher priority, because it has a higher molecular weight. And we're going to number the carbons on the ring in a clockwise manner so that we can give the methyl group a lower number. So at the end, this is the full name of the compound is 1-ethyl, because the ethyl group at position 1, 2-methyl, the methyl group at position 2, cyclohexane. This is a 6-carbon compound, so we call it a cyclohexane. And the full formula for this is C9H18. Lastly, let's go backwards. If we're given a name, we have to draw the compound. We're given the name 1,3-dimethyl cyclohexane. The last part of a name, cyclohexane, indicates it's doing a circular compound with 6 carbons. So we can draw a 6-carbon circular compound. And dimethyl tells us there's 2 methyl branches, one at position 3 and one at position 1. It doesn't matter where you draw position 1, but let's call that 1. It doesn't matter if you number it clockwise or counterclockwise, but in our diagram it's numbered clockwise, so let's do that. And here we see we have a methyl branch at position 1 and a methyl branch at position 3. So here we have 1,3-dimethyl cyclohexane.